So this is the final piece of Judaism and Catholicism, and it's on the subject of technology and terror. And I'll explain this guy in a minute, and for those of you who think that I'm some sort of bad actor from the 20th century who has a fetish for leather jackets and Wagner, that's not the case. But I wanted to talk about terror, and I was trying to think, well, what is the creepiest, most disturbing piece of music? And I was like, I think it's Siegfried's Journey or Siegfried's Death March or whatever it's called. So here it is. We're going to listen to it for a second. And I watched the movie Downfall, which is about the end of Mustache Man. And there's a scene where this young secretary who works for Mustache Man is watching them all get drunk, and like they know that everybody's either going to be take their own life or be killed by the Russians. And she gets this terrified look on her face, sort of like that guy, and says, "It's all a dream." So that's the theme today. Well, it's good, isn't it? So today's theme is terror. Got a new book. It's the knitting lady, the crazy knitting lady with blue hair. She's brilliant. So terror. So let's. Terror is what America has been about since 9/11, right? It goes back into the 80s, and there was the attack on the Marine base in Lebanon, and Reagan was smart enough to say, what are we doing there? When Reagan left the White House, he turned around as he was walking out to Marine One and turned around and said, Lebanon, Beirut. That's when we didn't know what we were doing. So we went from that kind of skepticism about the Middle East and intervention to being all in. And if you look at what's happening in Gaza, if you look at the pictures, and remember these were done by AI, the destruction of Gaza is a terrorism event made to not only in itself the destruction, the inhumanity of running 2 million people like sheep through a pen and cornering them. That's what we do with sheepdogs, right? Whenever we want to run them through the chute, we push them into a pen and pin them there so they're doing that so that they can starve them, terrorize them. There's even been a suggestion that some of the aid is poisoned with opioids and so forth. And you can see on TikTok, they openly talk about this. Rabbis, IDF leaders, political leaders openly talk about, I think Ben Gavir said, there'll be not one bit of aid delivered to them until they're on their knees or something like that. Really a savage thing, a lot like the movie Downfall, like that kind of human mentality. Which brings us to the world of cults. So I'm going to wind down this like religious thing, this like conspiracy theory thing, and then we're going to go into cults. We're going to go into cults. Because we're all living in a cult. So last Sunday I was talking about, mainly I was trying to bring like a grand opus together of like people, it's all about the money system is being reset and the Genius Act, and it's transitioning from, like you've seen a million times, me go like this with my hands, the old system's going to the new system. The new system's run on blockchain and run by AI. That's it. Then I talked a little bit about like Lincoln and the greenback versus slavery as debt and stuff like that. We'll do that another time. But this is all about terrorism. So the Gaza is about terror because they want you to experience terror in the broad sense. You either have to be for terror or you're against terror. If you're against what's going on in Gaza, you're Hamas. You're either, like Bush said to us, right? You're either with us or you're with the terrorists. So terrorism is the thing that divides the world. The problem is people have divided, and 7 billion people are against the West. And really, what is happening is being led by about 7 million people here that are here and in Israel, and those people are working together. And everybody says it now. Tucker Carlson says it, Tim Dillon says it, Joe Rogan says it, everybody says it now. You heard it from me 3 years ago, and I just called the whole thing Death Star. Okay? But remember that the terrorism that's being delivered to Gaza, and it's not a war. There's no, like, the Palestinians don't have, like, tanks or anything. They don't have any way to fight back. They just have, like, random acts of sabotage and satchel bombs and RPGs and stuff like that. They don't really have... And somebody from Al Jazeera, in English, from the UK, a journalist, said, as you look online, not only are the IDF soldiers think that they are completely free of any retribution for what they're doing, but as they show pictures of the dead, there's almost never a Hamas soldier with a Kalashnikov laying on his lap, dead on the ground. It's not a war, people. It's what I'm trying to explain to you. Israel was born in terror and is now, terror is the main attribute of what that country is about, and that has now been brought home because who did the terror in Gaza? Palantir. Who's going to take over the U.S. government? Palantir. What is Palantir's mission? Terror. This movie's about terror. That's Jack from The Shine. But this, by the way, this was made by AI. I said, can you make a picture? I did it with Gemini. I said, make a picture of Jack in the final scene, but with a face when he's in the gold room, and put it in front of the Great Seal of the United States. So it took me about 5 minutes to come up with this. But we'll get to that later. So, but terror has a lot of effects. I would suggest that you can think about when you go to Thanksgiving and you can't talk to Uncle Bob, and Uncle Bob won't talk to his lesbian niece who has blue hair and a ring through her nose, and these two people absolutely despise each other. One voted for Marjorie Taylor Greene and the other one voted for AOC or something like that. And then our politics have become like terror. There's not even like a dialogue or a dialectic in our democracy anymore. It's just every man for himself. But that's really just so that they can control us from the top. We're just like rats chewing on each other's tails. But and then, so I was cut off after doing this thing for about an hour, and I suggested that Prime Minister Hellpig should be taken to justice in The Hague and put it in incarcerated. And within 90, think about this, folks. Within 90 seconds, it turned off my live. Now, a couple days after October 7th, it did the same thing, and it took down my whole account. But think about this. Think about this kind of terror, and then what happens is everybody reaches out to me through DMs and emails and so forth and says, "Are you all right? Did they take your account down?" So it terrorizes everybody, right? It's like hitting my dad's electric fence out there. You get that like jolt. That's how they control us. They've controlled us with terror. So even the act of, imagine, either the algorithm was listening to me, or Palantir, or a person, but it put together Hellpig and the ICJ and took the live down within less than 60 seconds. So this is part one, and this is for free on Substack, and we're going to do a deep dive here in a minute, and we're going to talk about what the future looks like for technology and terror, and how it's related to religion and cults.